1968, the year that shocked the nation. Many changes, including for one of the first schools for African Americans in the upstate.
It was the only high school we had here.
Granard High School, the first high school for blacks in Gaffney.
#1 football team, won many state titles, basketball also.
Francis Wittenberg, remembering the good days.
I have to give credit to the lunchroom workers. We had good food.
But he says the good times didn't last.
It changed the West Junior High.
But not without doing all they could.
The blacks in the community, they were kind of protesting, so we wanted to put change back.
Francis, a member of the last graduating class, and many others didn't want to lose the history of the school with a new name.
We had to raise money to get the name changed back to Granard.
In '68, with desegregation, came another change.
A couple years after that, they closed it down for good. And it seemed like the way they did that, they were just trying to get rid of the black history here of the school.
But still determined to keep talking and keep the school's memory alive.
Well, at the Black History Month exhibit in Gaffney, this just one of the moving stories that you can see, and you still have time to check out that exhibit. It runs through Friday.